Welcome back to the East Coast and welcome to live coverage of the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series race number 5 of this 2020 campaign from the Atlanta Motor Speedway in Atlanta, Georgia on the KBueno Racing Network. My name is Kenneth Bueno, joined alongside by Charlie Baier, and we're going to be bringing you all the coverage from the drop of the green flag to the drop of the checkered flag at the end of the afternoon. Drivers are already down pacing, so we're already pretty much getting set to give you this race here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. We came a little late to the broadcast this time, but no worries. We've got everybody on the racetrack. You're looking at Dylan Basin. He is starting on the pole for tonight's action. You see Cole Williams right alongside him. He'll start in row number 1. Behind them, they have Hunter Ellis. Aiden Kirker will round out row number 2. Then looking down row number 3, we have Brianna Lavin, Keloa Hankins down in row 3. And then I think from there on, there's Brady Wheelerman, Eli O'Quinn. Those guys are going to go. And that's pretty much the field for tonight's action here at Atlanta. Charlie, we're about to go green flag racing, and I wanted to ask you and have a little more time before we got green to ask you about the track itself. But, you know, what do you really expect knowing that we're on the East Coast back this time?
Yeah, this track is very, very slick, especially in the day that it's being made down on the racetrack. So we're going to see a lot of slickness tonight on the racetrack here. But without further ado,
we're going to take the green flag live from Atlanta. Green flag is out. Dylan Basin, Cole Williams lead the field to the green flag. Cole Williams with a nice jump into turn 1. Dylan Basin didn't look like he got the best start off of there in that Nova Sim Racing Ford Mustang, but they're side by side coming off of turn number 2. Yeah, there's still a handful of new drivers in this field. Dylan Basin is one of them. He's making his first start tonight, this afternoon right now. He's under pressure from Cole Williams from behind, though. But right now he is confirming his lead over the field in that Nova Sim Sport. He's one of the 2 Nova Sim Sport cars in the field right now. Keloa Hankins also making his first start as well. He's a little bit farther back, but still a lot of work to do and still a long way to go. Here we got 60 laps here at Atlanta, so still a long way to go. But right now, Dylan Basin is continuing to express his lead over Cole Williams and the Nova Sim Sport guys. They are side by side for P2.
Yeah, and we're going to see those Nova Sim Racing guys work together because, you know, this track can be easily compared to a place like Charlotte or Las Vegas, where the first couple of laps, it's almost like a super speedway, and, you know, the draft really helps get some runs and helps you pass. But once those tires start to wear down, there's going to be a lot more lifting, and that's when the slickness is going to come in, especially with those worn down tires. So, yeah, late into this run, if we get a run, it's looking pretty promising right now, but yeah, if we get that run, it'll definitely come into play, but the 01 is catching up to the A.
Yeah, the 2 Nova Sim Sport guys looking to work together right now. And what you mentioned right there with the slickness of this track here at Atlanta. It's a very hot track surface we have today. And Atlanta's really known for a lot of loosey cars, if you will. And a lot of the slipping and sliding that happens around this track, especially with these high-power cars, especially with the high downforce, and they're looking to get every little bit of grip. And I wanted to ask you at the top of the broadcast, we didn't really have enough time to cover that too much, but I wanted to ask you how that really affects these drivers going down the road. These drivers have to constantly adjust to the slickness of this track, and they have to find every little bit of grip they can, especially early in the run and as the run progresses here. But how do these drivers really have to adapt when it comes down to the hotness of the racetrack?
Yeah, and you know, once the sun is beaming down here, and you know, late into the run, that back end, like I always mention on these broadcasts, that back end is going to want to step out on you, and you know, early in the run, it'll be easier to get those runs and stick it to the bottom and maintain your ground. But late into the run, it's going to get really slick, and the high downforce in these new Cup cars really is a big help compared to the old low spoiler, higher horsepower cars. So it's easier to drive these cars, but a couple years ago it was really hard to drive around here.
Yeah, those old Cup cars are tougher than these new ones. These new ones have the downforce to really help you steer around this track and really get a little bit of the grip and have that sense of security a little bit when it comes down to turning on this racetrack. You're looking at the 2 Nova Sims Racing guys right now up front. That is Hunter Ellis. He took the race lead away from Dylan Basin while we were talking about the slickness of the track. Cole Williams follows right behind there, looking single file for the most part right now. Seems to be a battle for the last spot right now. That's Brady Wheelerman in the 51 under pressure. and he's going to be looking, he's around the 26 right now of Eli O'Quinn. So he had a little bit of pressure going down the back straightaway. He's looking okay now. There's Kelan Hankins in front of them. But right now, these two Nova Sim Racing guys, they seem to be dominating here on lap number 8.
Yeah, they're looking really strong, but I know we're only 8 laps into a run, but this late into the run, the tires are going to start to come in. You know, I mentioned earlier, people like Cole Williams and Aiden Yorker can focus on saving their tires as these two Nova Sim Racing guys up front start to run as hard as they can. They can play back, save their tires, and late into the run, it really makes a difference.
Yeah, it does. And Cole Williams, you're looking at him right now. He was the winner at Phoenix. He had a really strong run at Auto Club last week. We had a little bit of technical difficulties there, so we really couldn't get that to you as much as we really should have. But Cole Williams right now, he's looking to be one of the more promising drivers for this championship hunt going into later in the season. There's still a long season left to go, and we still have a couple races. We're only in race 5, but so far Cole Williams has really shown his strength when it comes down to this track. He was the winner at Phoenix. He beat Blaze McKinney, and Blaze McKinney is a really, really talented race car driver in iRacing. And you know, Cole Williams has really shown that right now. There's Aiden Kirker right behind him. He's looking to get the P3 spot right now, but I think Dylan Bason's kind of working a strategy around that 01.
Yeah, and the gap is closed just a car length, and down to the inside he goes. They're going to have the advantage going into turn number 3. Battle for the lead side by side. Those two Nova Sim Racing drivers are going at it here, but it looks like Dylan Basin off of the corner is going to clear him for the race free. We'll see a crossover. I think the 01's a little too far back, but that allows the 42 to come up and maybe score second place.
New lead change. That is Dylan Basin in the number 8. He takes the race lead to the bottom of the racetrack. Hunter Ellis will try to work a way around. He's a little bit wide off the racetrack. He's going to get under pressure from the 42 and the 39 at the same time. They're going to look to the bottom of the racetrack. Easy clearance for both of those Chevrolet Camaros. They're going to go around the 01. Didn't seem to have the best corner off there, and you mentioned the tires. Pretty much the cars get tight off of those corners, and really you have to adjust your throttle management coming off of the corners because this track surface doesn't allow for it allows for understeer, as I should say, over the course of this run. And as the tires start to wear down, you have to really work that car to the bottom of the racetrack and avoid what the 01 just did right there. But Dylan Basin still in the race lead. You're looking at Cole Williams, Caden Kirker, those guys looking right to the back bumper. They're going to get the draft coming out of turn 4.
Yeah, and one thing about these Cup cars, that large fuel tank, that'll get you about 50 laps around a half-mile racetrack. So it really comes down to tires. So if you run that fuel tank down and you go as hard as you can, your tires are going to be shot. They're going to be below 40% tire wear at the end of that run. So it really is all about tires as compared to maybe a truck who has a smaller fuel tank. You don't necessarily have to worry about saving tires. But here comes Kelan Hankins into the top 4 here. So Keola started in the back, I think dead last, and he's made his way all the way up halfway through the field. So we're going to see him, we're definitely going to see him come towards the front late in the run.
Yeah, Kelan Hankins making his first start here in the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series. So we hope to see him in the rest of the races coming soon in the next couple of weeks. But looking up front right now, another first start driver, Dylan Basin, continues to lead this field, but it looks like these three have pretty much separated themselves from the rest of this top 5. You saw Kelan Hankins get around the 01 of Hunter Ellis down the back straightaway, so he's in a P4 in that SPM Racing Chevrolet Camaro. But right now, Dylan Basin, Cole Williams, Aiden Kirker, those guys really working together. And I've been looking at the past couple of races that we've seen on the broadcast, and Cole Williams and Aiden Kirker, they've been working pretty much together for the most part in a lot of these races, and I'm pretty sure they're both teammates if I'm not mistaken there. But so I'm pretty sure these guys like to work together. We've seen them pretty much work together at Auto Club when we saw the draft heavy racing right there. And now you're looking at a race battle for the race lead. There goes the 42 of Cole Williams to the bottom of the racetrack. He'll try to get the edge. Dylan Basin works around the high side. They're going to be side by side coming off of turn 4.
And Dylan Basin holding his ground, obviously using that outside. And yeah, like you said, once the tires start to wear down, you're going to see that outside line become more prominent. But the 37 sticking to the 42's back bumper, you might be able to clear him unless Dylan could once again hold his ground on the outside. And yeah, once those tires start to wear down, well, if you try to stick to the inside, you can't be able to hold it. But pass for the race lead. Cole Williams to the race lead on lap number 16.
And a pass for second place. There's Aiden Kirker around the 8 of Dylan Basin, so he's going to get the spot down there. And one of the things about Atlanta is that you have to really hug the bottom on that white line in a turn 3 and 4. That's really the favored location when it comes to entry and exit of this corner. First 1 and 2 is a little more free. You see a lot more guys using the higher grooves. You're seeing the 42 to 39. They're arcing the corner a little more, going down to the white line off the corner, but they're working high in the entrance. But then goes to turn 3 and 4, and you really have to work yourself all the way to that white line. And this track is bumpy, so it can really unsettle the car at the worst times, especially in a lot of the places close to that white line. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse when it comes down to going all the way to the bottom of the racetrack, trying to get every advantage. But right now, the advantage is to the 42. He leads lap number 17.
And now 18 laps into a run. Like I said, that's when the tire wear is gonna start to affect these drivers. You see Hunter Ellis fell all the way back to 2.5 seconds behind your race leader. So he was up front, but you must have went a little too hard and used up those tires. So yeah, it'll take a toll on your tires if you go hard too early. So Cole Williams and Dean Kirker have done a pretty good job of saving them, and we now see them out front here. So yeah, we do have our Ask First KBRN question of the evening here. Ask KBRN, will there be pit strategy for this race? Well, if I'm not mistaken, these drivers can't make it to the end on fuel. So some of these guys are going to start to drop in. Some guys will take tires, sometimes will take fuel only. It's all about how your car is handling, and the guys who wore down their tires early in the run are probably going to take tires, and the guys who are confident in saving can just take fuel. And it's a strategy racetrack for sure, and the length of this race really plays a factor into it.
Also cautions, you're looking at a green flag run right now, but if caution comes out on the racetrack, that could really shake things up and really force these drivers to go down pit road a little bit earlier than they anticipate on the fuel run, and get some of the fuel topped off and get some fresh tires over the restart. But right now we're looking at the green flag run, and a good question down in the YouTube chat that was Glenn Bundren. And Glenn Bundren, he's the owner of the iRacing Bundren Lawn Care Series, which you can catch right here on the KBueno Racing Network. That'll be right here at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this channel. So if you're looking for more racing action on the Monday evening, then that will be right there for you to watch right now. As you're looking at on board from Aiden Kirker, he's been trying to catch that 42 of Cole Williams, but it has not prevailed just yet. He's been looking at that back bumper for a handful of laps now, and Dylan Basin behind them. He started on the pole, and he's fallen back to third. And Hunter Ellis, who also went to the front row and battled for the race lead early on, he's now fallen just inside the top 5. You're looking at the EO Media onboard cam from the 39 of Aiden Kirker. And this track, this track is a pretty abrasive track. A lot of people don't think of Atlanta as pretty much the high action track, those tracks that really bring the skill in the drivers and really bring entertaining racing. And Atlanta can sometimes bring a different strategy and a different approach to stock car racing. I mean, we saw in Atlanta in the Cup Series race, there wasn't too many cautions. It was a really long green flag run, and it really showed the strategy point of that one. Didn't really bring as much action when it came down to passes, and we're looking at that right now on the iRacing side of things. You're looking at some drivers really spreading out amongst themselves, but I think Dylan Basin might try to make another charge for second place, Charlie.
Yeah, and he definitely doesn't want to drop out of the top 4 here, because once we get around to pit strategy, there's this thing called short pitting, where if you go in, you take those tires, you enter the pits just a couple laps before everyone else. You get those tires, you run those fast laps, and then when no guys pit and they'll come out, they're going to be behind you. So he definitely, in order to make that work, you have to be at least in proximity of the lead. So he definitely doesn't want to lose that ground here. So if he wants to make some up, he has to get by the 39. So.
Yeah, and don't look now, but Keloa Hankins in the 72 is slowly reeling in this top 3. He was working by himself for the most part. He got around Hunter Ellis for that 4th spot, and ever since then, he's slowly been catching these leaders in the top 3. So now he might be on the hunt for the race lead a little bit soon if he can get by these guys. He's very close to Dylan Basin right now, and those two guys making their first start. You're looking at the SPM Racing. He runs for SRAM Poindexter Motorsports. They're a fairly new team down in IceCar. They run a lot of IceCar events, and Keloa Hankins, we know him personally a little bit. We've talked to him a couple of times, and we're familiar with him on the IceCar side of things. But it's exciting to see him and Dylan Basin on the LWRC side of things, and they're looking pretty good right now, 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, we have some pretty loyal drivers. a couple of these guys also run the Bunch of Lawn Care Series, which is airing later tonight. So it's cool to see some of these guys also branch out and run some different leagues that we broadcast. So it's cool.
Yeah, it's super fun. And you're looking these top 4 really spread themselves out. Now in the rest of the top 5, it's shaking up a little bit. Now into the top 5, Hunter Ellis has stayed there. Then goes Eli O'Quinn. Brady Williman falls back to 7th, and the Brianna Lavin is the last driver on the racetrack, currently in 8th place. And a lot of these drivers really spreading themselves out. Other than that 72, he's the one reeling in the 8 and the rest of the guys in front of him. But he kind of has to make a charge later in the run if he wants to catch up to these guys, because if he gets held up a little bit, then he's going to continue to fall back between those top 2 right now. So in a turn number 3, he's going to look to the back bumper all the way to the bottom of the racetrack, try to make a move, but just can't get enough. But he might get the draft coming off of turn 4, Charlie.
Yeah, and it's just so hard to you know, if you throw it to the bottom, you know, those old tires, just like he's doing right now, it looks like Dylan might let him by. Looks like he will. So courtesy for those guys there, but if he doesn't want to let him by, it's hard for that 72 to get by, and I've experienced it myself in these races on old tires. So it's a tough task, but it's definitely not impossible. But it holds you up and makes you lose quite a bit of time.
So 28 laps running. We're just about to start lap number 29. Excuse me. Cole Williams currently in the race lead still. He's grown his lead to about a second or so, a little bit more than that. So he's continuing to gap himself from the rest of the field. Then Aiden Kirker follows suit behind him. Then goes Kilo Hankins, who we saw just made the pass for 3rd place. And behind him is Dylan Basin in the number 8 Ford Mustang. So already halfway through this race. It's a 60-lap race, but we've already gotten this pretty quickly. There's not enough, I don't think there's enough calamity on the racetrack right now to trigger a yellow on the track. And especially how these guys are spread out right now, it doesn't seem to look as if we'll probably get a yellow anytime soon. But so far we're halfway through. I mean, this could be a really quick race going into the finish.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's nice to see these long green flag runs and really see how the tire strategy plays. And obviously, it's not as, you know, well, yeah, it's not as exciting as maybe a green red checkered finish. But you know, sometimes it's refreshing to see that tire strategy and try something new.
Yeah, it is. And of course, while we're under this long green flag run, if you want to join the YouTube chat, you can do so using hashtag AskKBRN. You can ask any questions to us up in the booth about the race, about us in general, about our favorite things, about any type of subject you want, of course, within appropriate standards. But you can ask any question. Just use hashtag AskKBRN with your question following right after. And as I say that, we have an Ask KBRN question. As you see, Dylan Basin drop down pit road. It says mid-race support and your picks. Charlie, I want to go over this mid-race support with you a little bit, but what do you got right now? It's looking pretty strong, I think.
Well, yeah, and mid-race support, you know, pit strategy. You know, we just passed the halfway mark. Driver's going to start cutting the run in half. They're going to go down pit road, so we're going to see a lot of strategy come here nearing the halfway points. That's starting with Dylan Basin, but, you know, we haven't seen a lot of side-by-side door banging racing, but it's definitely been exciting to see the long green flag runs here, so I guess that's my report.
Well, as we go to this mid-race report, right now the race leader, Cole Williams, you're looking at him right now. He's led a couple laps in this race, and of course Dylan Basin started that pitch strategy, and we're going to see how these drivers adapt to that and how late they'll pit into the run. Of course, they can't go all the way on that fuel tank. You see Dylan Basin coming out of pit road. He's going to merge back onto the back straightaway with his Nova Sim Racing companion, Hunter Ellis, also as well. Right now, he is currently the first car a lap down, but that strategy might work out for the 8 of Dylan Basin if he can, if these guys can go down pit road and follow suit on the strategy. Doesn't look like it's happening right now, but I think it could pay off going later in the run, especially if these guys start to go down pit road together. But right now, we still haven't really seen too much from these guys concerning pit strategy. But right now, Kelan Hankins looking to the bottom of the racetrack. He's slowly reeling in at 39 of Aiden Kirker. As you see, the 42 and the 39 go down pit road.
And that was a close call for the 72. That 39 almost stopped in the middle of the racetrack trying to make it into the pits. But yeah, we're seeing some pit strategy now. Dylan Basin brought these guys down pit road. And Kelan Hankins, obviously the last car on the racetrack. So Dylan Basin just has 2 laps fresher tires on the other guys. So we won't see necessarily a big difference there. But obviously yeah, it matters, is what I'm saying.
well, now that brings the lead to the 72 of Kelan Hankins. It's just a matter of when he dips down pit road. He's one of the drivers who still hasn't pit along. I believe Eli O'Quinn hasn't pit yet. I don't think Hunter Ellis has either. I think we'll just check on that. I think those guys have not pit just yet, so they're going to be pitting later in this run. Brianna Lavin looks to have pit now 2 laps down on the racetrack. And this is where the strategy plays in, and whether you really want to stay out. We got a car around. Cole Williams around on the back straightaway. I think he's under the apron, so the yellow won't be triggered. But, oh, boy, that was tough. We really wanted to see what happened there. We'll take a replay coming off of the pit road exit on the apron. I think he might have just gotten loose there. We're just going to take a look and see exactly what happened. You see him merging down, and it looks pretty harmless right now. And then I think coming off of the merger right here, might have where he got loose. Yeah, he got a bit of the transition there and just got up into the wall, went around the racetrack. I'm surprised that didn't trigger a yellow because he was spinning down the racetrack, but interesting call. They don't seem to call the yellow flag right now, so we're still under green.
Yeah, that's disappointing for that 42 car. He was running so well, and just a mistake off of pit exit just, I guess, ruined it all for him. So I guess he's going to be out of this one for sure. That stinks. He was my pick. And unfortunately just went down the drain for him. So Dylan Basin currently ahead of Aiden Kirker. He took that short pitting strategy, undercut the 39. He is almost half a straightaway ahead of him, so that's working here. But when Dylan Basin's tires wear down quicker, Aiden Kirker is going to be able to catch up to him.
Yeah, that's certainly something to watch for as they go down the road. But the man staying out is Kelan Hankins, Hunter Ellis, Eli O'Quinn. They are still yet to pit on the racetrack, and they surely can't go the entire way around. I think Kelan is trying to work a strategy where he's going to try and make as many laps as possible down the stretch, and if people go down pit road, that gives a chance for him to lap them, and then that could really set them in a hole and really give the advantage to him and also the other drivers who haven't pit. But even though he's on that strategy, though, those older tires can really get to him, as I think he's slowing down. Going down pit road, actually, no, not yet. So he'll still stay out on the racetrack right now by himself. And there's the fresher tires going to the advantage of the 39 who just pit a handful of go. He's gonna take that position away, not for position, but he's gonna take the spot away. But that could be crippling to that 72 and the other drivers, especially on those old tires. They start to make the ground up.
Well, something interesting is we saw him do this exact strategy in the Bunch and Lawn Care Series race at Michigan. He stayed out, and while those other guys got the new tires, got past him, he got those tires late into the run, and he was able to make up all that ground and eventually got to the race lead just because he hit later in the run and was able to use those fresh tires. So it could be a strategy. It worked for him, but unfortunately in Bunch and Lawn Care Series, that race was under caution, so he wasn't able to pull off the strategy, but he could here. So it's been a promising green flag run. So if he can pull it off, I'd be amazed.
Yeah, and yeah, you mentioned his strategy in the Bunch and Lawn Care Series at Michigan. I almost kind of that. I remember his strategy almost worked out to his favor at Michigan, and he had one of the fastest cars on the track, and he used that strategy to stay out. And after that, those cautions came out at the end of that race, and that really hindered his run, and that kind of destroyed his strategy. But I think in this scenario right now, that the caution's not out just yet, he can use this strategy to his advantage to possibly stay out the entire race. And I think we have an update down in the chat. It says hearing the 72 does not plan to make a pit stop. So I think he's going to stretch it all the way to the end of this race. I think maybe his strategy to lay back early in the run was probably a little bit of strategy to save fuel maybe.
I'd be astounded if that works, because Dylan Basin is just 20 seconds behind him, almost half the track. I mean, it's definitely not out of the picture. I mean, Co just has 20 laps, and as long as the 8 of Dylan Basin or the 39 of Aiden Kirker don't catch up to him in time, it'll definitely be an astounding race strategy for sure.
Yeah, I don't think any other drivers are hunting for that race lead other than Dylan Basin. Because Hunter Ellis, he has also stayed out on the racetrack, and he's kind of putting around by himself. He's working by himself, just hitting his marks the right way, and he's been kind of staying there in second place. He also has not pitted on the racetrack, but Dylan Basin could be the driver to hunt them down near the end of this run, and he has the freshest tires, and he doesn't have to worry about saving fuel whatsoever because he's pretty much good to the end, considering they've pitted pretty much halfway through the race. So he's fine to the end of the race. A lot of these drivers are okay in fuel concerns, and while that I'm talking about the drivers and the gaps, currently I believe 6 drivers are on the lead lap right now. I'm going to recheck that. Actually, 5 cars on the lead lap. Cole Williams is the first driver a lap down. You see him right there working to the back bumper of that 01. He's going to get around him, and I think he's just working his strategy on those fresher tires to get around those leaders and unlap himself and put himself back into the bigger picture coming to the end of this race. But Kelan Hankins all by himself on the racetrack. He's now under pressure from the 26 of Eli O'Quinn. And Eli O'Quinn has the fresher tires, so he'll get around him. And when you're saving tires, Charlie, you're saving tires and saving fuel, you really have to kind of manage your speed while also managing the saving part, because you don't want to be too slow on the racetrack, because then you'll be caught by all the other guys who might have a different strategy than you. But how difficult really is it to save while also staying consistent and fast?
Yeah, it definitely requires a lot of skill, and there's a lot of different approaches that people take to saving fuel. There's obviously just lifting and managing your steering input, but there's also the clutch and coast. That's a pretty common one, especially at a lifting track, kind of like Homestead or kind of like Atlanta on old tires. So there's a lot of different approaches, and it definitely takes a bit of finesse to a bit of skill to finesse the tire strategy, I should say, or the fuel strategy. So yeah, but it's working out for Ko right now. With just 15 laps to go, Dylan Basin is 15 seconds behind. A few laps ago, he was 20 seconds behind. So closing the gap just a little bit. We'll see if he can ultimately catch up to him for the race win. That is if Ko is good to the end on fuel.
Yeah, and that was the pass for second place. There was Dylan Basin around his fellow Nova Sim Racing teammate of Hunter Ellis. He gets around him, and now he has one car to attack to get this race win at the end. It's just a matter of how much time he has left to catch up to that 72 of Kelan Hankins, and if he has enough time to go for that race win at the end of this race, or especially if a caution comes out and that spreads out everything, and that'll really shake up the standings. And speaking of standings, you're looking at the top 5 right now. There's Kelan Hankins, 14 seconds separating the two, but Dylan Basin continues to crunch that lead down just ever so slightly, a couple of tenths each lap, and then goes Hunter Ellis in the just 16 seconds behind. He recently got passed by Dylan Basin. There goes Aiden Kirker in the top 4. He's 18 seconds, and then Eli O'Quinn is the first driver a lap down. He has scored just inside the top 5, and that's really the question when it comes down to the end of this race. I really didn't think we were going to see this happen, but considering that Kelan Hankins is really stretching this to the end, it's really going to be interesting to see how that works, especially now as we work 10 laps to go. This is crunch time. This is really what you're going to need, and this is where we're going to find out.
Yeah, and I pulled up this graphic to examine the gap and how it's fluctuating. I believe he's about gaining just almost a second a lap here, and there's just about 10 laps to go. He's 13 seconds behind, so it's going to be close. At the end, it'll be about 3 seconds between them, but that's if they stay consistent. And obviously, both of their tires are going to keep on wearing down. So, yeah, it's going to be close. I'm really interested to see how this plays out. But 10 laps to go here at Atlanta.
Well, you pulled up the graphic to see the gap. Well, that gap has shrunk 3 seconds ever since we pulled that up over the course of the last 3 or so laps. So right now, Dylan Basin is closing on that 72, and that 72 just has to hope that Dylan Basin at least gets into some sort of trouble. Maybe he doesn't have the best exit off the corner, maybe a little bit of understeer as those tires start to wear down a little bit more. But that 72 also has to worry about his own equipment. He has to keep the fuel in that car to the end of the run, and now we have just 8 laps remaining. So this is truly the fight for the race win right now. It looks like Aiden Kirker, Hunter Ellis, those guys still don't seem to be a factor unless a yellow is triggered. And you see Brady Williman now takes over the 5th spot. So he is the driver in the free pass position if we get the yellow flag. But oh my goodness, this is an interesting strategy. we saw this at Michigan. It didn't work, but now that it's working right now, at least for the most part, when it comes down to Kelan Hankins, this is very interesting, and Kelan might stretch this out to the end. I mean, he's still got a couple laps to go, so he's nearing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, you know, starting to get late into this run. I think the gap between them has stalled at about 12-13 seconds. He hasn't really gained or lost, so I think if Kelan can just manage his fuel and make sure that he can make it to the end, this would be an astounding victory, being the only car on the racetrack who hasn't pit.
Well, we have a little report from Side Drafting Productions, a close friend of Dylan Basin himself, and I think they're in the voice chat together, so he has a little bit of insight on what Dylan Basin has going on. Says that the 8 says that he can't really catch this 72, and I think especially down the road, I was mentioning how Dylan Basin, his tires will also start wearing as he goes down the run, and obviously he'll have fresher tires in that 72, but it'll basically be like 2 rotten apples, but one is just a little bit more rotten than the other one. So it's still pretty significant on those tires when they wear over the course of the run. You're looking at a grandstand view. Kelan Hankins right now just 5 laps shy of his first win in his LWRC NASCAR Cup Series in his debut. How sweet would that be?
Yeah, that would definitely make a statement for sure. And, you know, out here right out of the gate, getting a win here, especially on strategy and pulling off a good strategy, that's a really impressive strategy in my opinion. But yeah, if he can pull this off, just 5 laps to go here, that would be pretty cool.
Working through 3 and 4, Kelan Hankins will approach just 4 laps remaining. I don't think Dylan Basin will have enough time to reach the back bumper of that 72 to make an effect for this race win. But the 2 drivers making their first starts really showing out against the rest of the field, and they're really putting up a statement right now, especially from now to the rest of the season. So we're still looking at Kelan Hankins working by himself around this racetrack, and still a large gap to Dylan Basin. So right now he is working right now. The gap just now 10 seconds between the two. It's dwindled just about 3 seconds over the course of that run, but I think right now it's staying a little bit stagnant. It's closing just a little bit, but 10 seconds is a lot to make over 4 laps.
Yeah, I think Ko just pretty much has this one in the bag. He just needs to drive around this track just 4 more times, and it shouldn't be that hard for him. So I think a really impressive performance here today. Started, I believe, last place, didn't even qualify. Made his way up through the field under green, got all the way up to, I believe, 3rd place. And once pit stop started, everyone else kind of fell victim to his plan as he stayed out. And there's 3 laps to go here at Atlanta.
3 laps to go for that 72 to take his first checkered flag of the 2020 LWRC NASCAR Cup Series season in that SPM Racing Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 1LE. He's working down the back straightaway. This is where these last laps come in. There's not much to talk about considering that the gap is closing, but it won't close enough to get that 72 and work for that race lead for the end of the race. But 2 laps to go for the 72 down to the front straightaway. He's going to go 2 more laps around this 1.5 mile racetrack, and he will take his first checkered flag this season.
There's 6 more corners for that number 72 SPM Racing Chevy Camaro. And yeah, I've raced with him a lot. He's actually my teammate. I'm on that SPM Racing team, and you know, we've been pretty good friends for a little while, and I know his worth, so he definitely deserved this one today, right out of the gate as a rookie. And here comes the white flag one more time around for Kelan Hankins.
White flag for that 72. Just needs 4 more perfect corners to get around the racetrack and take his first win. Dylan Basin had the strategy to catch up, but not enough time for that number 8, so he will stay in 2nd. But as of right now, 72 worked down the back straightaway for the final time in a 3 and 4. He stays out, and he is victorious this time around. Coming off turn number 4, Kelan Hankins in his debut. He wins here at Atlanta. Excuse me. Oh, boy.
And a bit of a slide through the grass. He got just caught up behind the 01, I believe. But yeah, Kelan Hankins victorious here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. A really good race for him.
Kelan Hankins with his first win this season. Dylan Basin finishes just short of the race win in second. Aiden Kirker will round out the top 3. And I apologize for that last call there. I butchered the last call just a little bit. I got confused with Iowa because I think last race we did was the Bunch and Lawn Care Series from Iowa. So a little bit of confusion there, but nonetheless, the win still goes to Kelan Hankins at Hotlanta. I think that's the best way to say it. So he'll go down the front straightaway. He'll burn it down. The rest of the drivers shown, and they will finish. We'll give you the results right on your screen. Kelan Hankins with his first win of 2020. Dylan Basin finishes second. Aiden Kirker finishes just inside the top 3, 12 seconds down, and then goes down to Hunter Ellis. He is the first driver a lap down. Then inside the top 5, 51 of Brady Williman. He gets another top 5 this season. Cole Williams finishes 6th after spinning off of pit road. Then goes Brianna Lavin and Eli O'Quinn finishing 2 laps behind the leaders. He finishes the field here at Atlanta. So right now, you see the bunch of drivers working themselves around. I think Hunter Ellis, Dylan Basin, they're celebrating with him. Dylan Basin and Kelan Hankins, they're both friends, so they're working a celebration both together. But a debut and a win in his first start here at the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series. So right now, we're going to get down to the interviews and bring a couple of drivers in, including the race winner, and see what they feel right now about this race and how the race really went for them. We're going to get the top 3, I believe, into the booth. But before we do that, when we come back, we'll take the interviews and we'll just take a short little break and we'll get down to the interviews for the race here tonight. This afternoon, you're watching the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Kelan Hankins wins. We'll be right back with interviews. Welcome back to the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where Kelan Hankins takes his first victory of the 2020 LWRC NASCAR Cup Series season. And with that, we're going to bring him into the booth, see how he feels about taking the win here at Atlanta. Well, Kelan Hankins, welcome to the KBRN studios. You got a copy?
I do indeed.
Well, Kelan, it's your first debut race here at the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series, and you joined pretty late into the session. I saw you in the chat in the Discord. You joined right at the last minute, but you take the win after staying out the entire race. Tell us how that strategy worked out for you today.
Well, I just I looked at the fuel at like lap 29, saw that we had like 10.5 gallons left, so I was like, okay, the car is capable of making it all the way. And I think I was going to pit at halfway, but I realized that I had the slowest working car, and that probably wouldn't have worked out. And I realized that the tires like get pretty bad after 20 laps. So I just hoped that they would even out for the other guys, and they ended up evening out.
Okay, Loa, you really showed out from those guys there, and you and Dylan, you both were making your first starts today, and Dylan Basin had a different strategy than you, and he was catching you with those old tires. Did you really have any concern with him going down the road and possibly catching you for the race win, or you think you really had it in the bag?
When he lapped me, I thought he was going to like easily pass me, and I was like, "Oh, Dylan Basin, you got this, like good win and all." But when I started to realize that he was catching me slower and slower per lap, like it got to like 3 seconds a lap, he was faster than me. Then like 2 seconds, then 1 second, then like maybe half a second. I was like, "Okay, I'm far enough ahead of him. I think I got this."
All right, well, Kelan, you're going to celebrate your first ever win in the LWRC NASCAR Cup Series here at Atlanta. Before we let you go, you got any sponsors or teams you want to thank for making today happen?
I would like to thank Dylan Basin for racing in the league, saying that he was gonna win. I would like to thank the other competitors, Cole Williams and the 39. They were really good people to race against. And yeah, I would like to thank you guys for broadcasting. You guys always do a good job out there.
Well, we appreciate your support, and of course, even though I said Iowa at the end of the race, I think we still appreciate your support, and we hope you celebrate your win. We're gonna let you celebrate your first win, and I hope that must feel good for you. And we'll hope to see you in the next coming races and the rest of the season. And you've brought some really good racing today, and we hope to see that through the rest of the season. So we wish you the best of luck, and we hope to see you coming in the next few races.
All right, thank you.
Kelan Hankins out of the booth winning tonight, today here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Dylan Basin is not in the waiting room, so we're going to take Aiden Kirker, who finished inside the top 3. He'll be our next interview if we can get Dylan Basin in within the time being. No, now Dylan Basin is in, so we'll take him in for an interview, and I'll give that to Charlie. He'll bring the second place interview with Dylan Basin.
Just 1 second. Oh yeah, into the booth, Dylan Basin. You got a copy of this?
What?
Dylan, you got us?
Yeah.
Well, Dylan, came up just short, a second place finish here. I have to ask you on that pit strategy. Do you feel like you had anything for Ko, or was his strategy just too much? Or well, yeah.
It was too much. Yeah, I had to go through lap traffic, and it slowed me down and used my tires up. I was still catching him, and I needed like another probably 20 laps to actually pass him. But congrats on his win. Played it right. What happened to Cole Williams kind of sucked, but
Yeah, we saw early in the run you got up front there and was really content for the race lead, and I believe at one point you were out in front. So, yeah, on the new tires, do you feel like you really had something for them?
oh yeah. When I fell back behind all of them, I tried to save my tires, and once I felt like I was too far back to try to charge my way back up there, I tried to split the race in half, which almost worked.
All right, well, Dylan, right out of the gate, finishes second place here at Atlanta. Thanks for racing with us. We hope to see you come next week. I'm not sure what the next race is, but we hope to see you there, man.
Yep.
Dylan Basin, right out of the gate for Nova Sim Racing. I forgot to ask him to thank his sponsors. Oh, yikes, that's my bad there. But yeah, this last interview, yeah, Kenneth, go.
All right, well, we're going to bring Aiden Kirker, who finishes third today here at Atlanta. We're going to see his opinions on tonight's race and really what happened through the end of the run. Aiden Kirker, welcome to the KBRN booth. You got a copy?
Yep, I got you.
All right, well, you had a really interesting race through the pretty much the start of the race. You really were working with Cole Williams really well there. You went around Dylan Basin and Hunter Ellis, who were challenging for that race lead, and you were working to that end of the race. Just tell us how the strategy went for you and how that really worked out, considering your teammate kind of spun out in the back straightaway.
It didn't really work to plan. We were aware that you can make it on a full tank of gas, and Basin outsmarted us by short pitting and gained a lot of time on us, and it was just kind of too big of a gap for me to make up at the end. And obviously, Hankins stayed out the entire way and got himself the win. So just kind of outsmarted us, and we kind of messed up on the strategy in this one.
Well, you were working by yourself for a lot of the part of the strategy when everyone started to spread out and you were really just hitting your marks every single lap. But was there anything notable about the car after the run? I know that there was a couple drivers who pit, and I know that obviously Kilo Hankins didn't pit the entire race, but